Newsmax Daily podcast family, Kay here on Tuesday, April 29th, 2025 for my final day filling in for the epic Tony Marino. Tony will be back from his special assignment tomorrow, and you can catch me on Carl Higbie's Frontline tonight and Thursday at 5 p.m. Well, the show starts at 5 p.m. I'm on a little bit after. You can also watch me most Mondays with Ed Henry on N2. That show starts at 6 p.m. And you can read my writing at Million Voices. Follow me on social media via my maiden name, Kay Smythe, Kaysmythe. Okay, now I'm done shamefully plugging myself. Let's get into the show today. We had the White House Correspondents dinner at some point recently. I don't know when, no one cares, but the Newsmax squad did an absolutely epic job of trolling the whole thing. Let's start with Carl Higbie on Frontline last night.
In a news conference today on Trump's 99th day in office, the White House informed the world of more raids of illegal immigrants committing or preparing to commit a ton of crimes, among other nationally coordinated raids this weekend. Now, over 100 were rolled up in possession of drugs and guns in a Colorado nightclub. I mean, this is crazy. Get this. There were over a dozen active duty military members inside and even allegedly running security for the club, too. And Tom Homan, God bless him, he didn't hold back, especially when he spoke about the judges being arrested.
But when you cross that line, I've said this 1,000 times, when you cross that line to impediment or knowingly harboring, concealing an illegal alien from ICE, you will be prosecuted.
Yep, that checks out. And then this is exactly what I voted for, by the way, because they knew the media after that press conference was going to run back to the cameras, try to spin this as a bad thing, and in perhaps the greatest troll move of my lifetime, Trump's staff put signs up behind the reporter row. Look, you can see them right there in the background. Okay, they're on the White House lawn in the media row, and they were forced to stand in front of these and do their media hits from there that showed mugshots of these criminal, illegal aliens and all their charges. Rape, drugs, murder, whatever. I mean, good. The media has tried to ignore this forever. They refuse to call these people illegal. They have gang members they're calling them Maryland dads, and they've buried statistics or refused to report it at all, which is just as bad. I mean, for Pete's sake, remember this one?
The incidents were limited to a handful of apartment complexes, and the mayor said our dedicated police officers have acted on those concerns. A handful of problems.
Only, Martha, do you hear yourself? Only a handful of apartment complexes in America were taken over by Venezuelan gangs.
You people are the worst. And while these raids were being carried out on the people they refuse to admit are a problem, all these reporters, they were all gathering in Washington, D.C. for the White House Correspondents dinner to pat themselves on the back. Like, I did not go to this thing on purpose, okay? Knowing how fake these people are, too, I really have a deep knowledge of how not connected to reality most of these people are. Even I was surprised at some of the things that were said.
Sometimes we think we know everything, but we're also human. We miss our families and significant life moments in service to this job. We care deeply about accuracy and take seriously the heavy responsibility of being stewards of the public's trust. What we are not is the opposition. What we are not is the enemy of the people, and what we are not is the enemy of the state.
Oh, you miss your families. That's called a job. Welcome to the real world, dude. And you don't care about getting the story right. You only care if you can get away with it or not. You are the problem. I mean, and that clip goes on, and they're all standing there clapping like, yay! It's unbelievable. The fact that you will stand there in that very weird outfit and give a speech saying, no, we're not the problem. You peasants are the problem. You should think like us and listen to us. Let us be the arbiters of truth. That tells me everything I need to know about why I didn't have to go there this weekend. I've had plenty of stuff to do at my farm. People who are not enemies of the state and not enemies of the public, you know what they don't have to do? They don't have to go around telling people that they're not enemies of the public. These people, these journalists that were there, they live in a bubble. They believe in this alternative reality. And if you don't believe me, if you think for just 5 seconds that there might be a shred of integrity in any of these folks, ladies and gentlemen, I give you the dumbest award of the night.
A correspondent who personifies the journalistic excellence and personal qualities of Aldo Beckman. Impartiality, integrity, and a deep knowledge of the presidency. This year's award goes to Alex Thompson of Axios.
I have a lot of thank yous.
The same people who spent 5 years covering up Biden's cognitive decline are now giving each other awards. I mean, Jake Tapper's writing a book about it at the White House Correspondents' dinner for finally admitting that there was a cognitive decline only after he flopped in a debate. Sick. Cool story, bro.
Okay, guys. So I'm going to let you in on some inside baseball here from the news media industry. It is a tiny bubble, mostly made up of people who've worked together at some point or another, who spend all day reading each other and watching each other's content, and then they get mad about it. That's what most of this is. Not Newsmax, thankfully. That's why I'm here. But at least that's been my experience. And the White House Correspondents' dinner, it is one of those things that is admittedly cool to say that you've been to, but really only to folks who have no idea what that means. I have never been, but mostly because it's impossible to get me off my farm, for pretty much anything at this point. Yeah, I'm just going to let Rob Schmitt take over the rest, because honestly, this is one of the most brilliant roasts I've heard in a hot minute on the White House Correspondents' dinner. So, yeah, let's go, Rob.
Welcome to Rob Schmitt Tonight. As we close out the first 100 days of Donald Trump, the media is going ballistic with an array of New polling showing the president slipping on approval into the mid-40s. ABC actually has Trump at 39% right now, claiming the lowest after 100 days in about 80 years. Mostly negative coverage gets the credit for this, of course. Media Research Center often shows us that the president gets more than 90% negative coverage, so nobody expects a high rating for Trump to last very long. Lately, Trump's been hammered on trade policies and tariffs from those claiming that our economy was very strong when he entered office and he's spoiling everything. Despite the fact that Americans held record household debt and astronomical prices we had after 3 years of heavy inflation. But the economy was great because the stock market was high. And as the media apparatus works to cripple another Trump presidency, they were disappointed to discover that Trump would be skipping yet another White House Correspondents' dinner this past weekend in Washington. The Nerd Prom, as we refer to it, where Jake Tapper is the good-looking guy. It happens every spring when left-wing sycophants who've taken over the American media all join together to celebrate themselves. And last night, the award for journalistic excellence went to an Axios reporter, the first to boldly report a story that he helped to conceal for 3 years, a story that everyone already knew. The host of Meet the Press making the announcement on Saturday night. Take a listen.
The judges said Thompson's aggressive reporting on President Biden, especially leading up to and after the Trump-Biden debate, revealed the president's cognitive decline was impacting his ability to do his job, information the White House tried to conceal. Ladies and gentlemen, the White House Correspondents Association is pleased to give the Aldo Beckman Award to Alex Thompson.
All right, so we're going to show you a little bit more of that coming up here in a second. We're going to go into some of the incredible reporting that he did from last summer. But before we do, we should tell you that every bit of that reporting that we could find from Alex Thompson all came after Joe Biden completely collapsed in front of the entire world during that fateful first debate with Donald Trump.
With dealing with everything we have to do with, look, if we finally beat Medicare until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more Border Patrol.
A night to remember. More than a week later, the very brave Alex Thompson over at Axios brought us these headlines. Biden's team drafted the questions for his first post-debate interviews. And scoop, how Biden's event staffers guide him behind the scenes. Again, everyone knew this was happening for years. But 2 weeks prior to the debate, Alex Thompson wrote a story on Joe Biden's classified documents case in the Robert Hur report, where Hur advised DOJ against charging Joe Biden because even though he's the president of the United States, he was apparently an old man with a poor memory. Thompson barely laid a glove on Biden prior to that debate, after he was described as too old and broken down to even jail, even though at the same time he was also the president of the United States. This is what they call journalistic integrity and excellence in Washington these days. This is what passes for that. Try not to laugh. And when Thompson wrote these pieces exposing Biden, we had already watched, by the way, Biden calls Zelensky Putin at the G7. We had already seen that happen. We had watched Biden fall up the stairs going on to Air Force One, calling out a dead woman's name at an event, trying to find her, saying long live the Queen right after the Queen died, the Easter Bunny saving Biden from the media, which was, of course, a fan favorite, and also too many verbal flubs to even count.
And now I want to hand it over to the president of Ukraine, who has as much courage as he has determination. Ladies and gentlemen, President Putin. America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to another ill-begotten gains of Putin's kleptocracy. Kleptocracy and the guys who are the kleptocracies.
Guys, I can't believe we did that for 4 years. Like, I know there's folks out there saying we had to go through it to see how bad it had really become. Like, no, we didn't. Everyone in California, New York, Austin, everyone was screaming, Don't let these guys, well, everyone, who's sensible, was screaming, like, don't let these guys get 4 years of full control of the country, because they'll do to the whole country what they're doing to us. I'm begging you, get to know your local officials and figure out who funds them, because then you know who they really are. The Democrats, they're scouting for their next leaders, and it could be someone right in your backyard. Let's listen to what Rob Finnerty has to say before hoping you can trust all news media again. Let's go, Rob Finnerty.
What if I told you that Joe Biden was never in charge at the White House? And what if I told you that the New York Times just inadvertently admitted it? You'd never believe something like that, would you? Well, wait a minute. In a story about a San Jose State volleyball player named Blair Fleming, another man on the women's team, according to the New York Times, there were officials in the Biden administration who believed that transgender athletes had an unfair advantage over women. And most important, one of the officials holding this view was Joe Biden himself. And Biden was particularly focused on the unfair advantages that male athletes had over women. But that's not what we all heard. Joe Biden never said any of that publicly because Joe Biden was never really in charge. Joe Biden was overruled by somebody because even though he was president of the United States, it was in name only. It was only for the cameras. In reality, he was never in charge. Joe Biden was overruled because someone else was actually running his White House. And the official policy of the Biden administration for 4 years, there's Leah, go Leah, was that only men were allowed to compete against women if they wanted to. But men, we're talking about men with male parts. All of the male parts. They were allowed to go into women's bathrooms and women's locker rooms if they wanted to, as the Biden administration embraced the fantasy of a tiny percentage of the U.S. population. And over the weekend, at the annual White House Correspondents' Dinner, one reporter seemed to recognize a little bit that maybe the national media missed or even deliberately covered up what was going on at the White House for the last 4 years. Take a listen.
President Biden's decline and its cover-up by the people around him is a reminder that every White House, regardless of party, is capable of deception. But being truth tellers also means telling the truth about ourselves. We, myself included, missed a lot of this story. And some people trust us less because of it. We bear some responsibility for faith in the media being at such lows.
Oh, what a hero. We bear some responsibility. We bear some responsibility, and everybody started clapping like Alex Thompson was so brave. You don't bear some responsibility. You bear all of the responsibility. You, the legacy media, bear all of the responsibility, and it is because of you that Donald Trump won the election again. So don't include me in your we, because we never lied to our audience about Joe Biden. We knew there was something terribly wrong, and we called that out. And you laughed at us for 4 years, but we were right. And you have been exposed because you are all liars, something that Caroline Leavitt addressed in a rare Monday morning press briefing today.
Millions of Americans watched our mentally incompetent president struggle with his day-to-day duties of this office. We watched our country be ran into the ground as a result, and nobody in the media wanted to write about that, talk about it. There were many reporters, I will say, right-leaning reporters who did talk about that, who didn't get awards, didn't get coverage. In fact, they were lambasted for their coverage. I think it's about time the legacy media finally admits that was one of the greatest cover-ups and scandals that ever took place in American history, and certainly it did contribute to the decline in the trust that Americans have for the legacy media.
So what has changed since Donald Trump took over 99 days ago? Well, not much if you're the legacy media. Fortune magazine with this headline on Saturday: the Vatican asked Pope Francis funeral attendees to wear all black, but Donald Trump wore a blue suit instead. My goodness, on the surface you see that and you might think, geez, Trump either did that on purpose or nobody told him to wear black until you widen out that very same photograph right there and realize that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the people seated around Donald Trump were also wearing blue suits. It was 80 degrees in Rome on Saturday. This was all outdoors. It would be very hot in black. The truth is that for more than 4 years, we were told that Joe Biden was not only cogent, but that this version of Joe Biden was the best we've ever seen.
I'm just saying, you didn't hear that from Newsmax. Okay, so to wrap up the show today, we're going to head over to Chris Salcedo for... Well, just listen, this is why I love Chris.
There is nothing of value that the modern left offers America. I've told you, my beloved audience, the Democrats have devolved into a godless, soulless, lawless, anti-American party. And despite the efforts of the biased press to divert blame and protect the Democrats' depravity, Americans are finding out just how dangerous and corrupt Democrats are. Democrats are everything I've said they are, and that's bad news for our country in today's preamble. I have said Democrats hate this country and the laws and the Constitution designed to protect our people from their kind. If you weren't convinced by Democrats traveling to El Salvador to demand the return of a criminal illegal alien terrorist and accused wife-beater, if you are not convinced by Democrats showing up to detention centers, trying to free foreign nationals slated for deportation after those nationals had declared their opposition to our nation and our allies, then perhaps you'll be convinced by all of this. A Wisconsin judge was arrested by the FBI. Milwaukee County Circuit Judge Hannah Dugan was arrested for allegedly helping a criminal illegal alien evade arrest last week. FBI Director Kash Patel writing on X, quote, "Just now, the FBI arrested Judge Hannah Dugan out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, on charges of obstruction after evidence of Judge Dugan obstructing an immigration arrest operation last week. We believe Judge Dugan intentionally misdirected federal agents away from the subject to be arrested in her courthouse. Eduardo Flores Ruiz, allowing the subject, an illegal alien, to evade arrest," end quote. A left-wing judge was so desperate to keep a criminal illegal alien in America, she was allegedly willing to obstruct justice and aid and abet that criminal. That's illegal, by the way. According to reports, another left-wing judge is threatening not to do her job after the FBI refused to look the other way on Judge Dugan's alleged illegal activities. Monica Isham, a Sawyer County judge, a circuit court judge, is threatening not to hear cases. I say good. After refusing to do her job, there will be no excuse not to impeach or remove that rogue judge. Another Democrat judge, Jose Joel Gano, and his wife were reportedly taken into custody last Thursday by federal officials after being accused of harboring a Tren de Aragua gang member in their home. Does this not show that the Democrats are the party of the illegal alien criminal? In response to the arrests of the judges, leftists are declaring, this is evidence of President Trump behaving like a dictator. That's right. Applying the law to everyone is a dictatorial action by Trump, according to left-wing kooks. But if you remember, these are the very same leftists who were saying something very different when fake charges were leveled against President Trump. They were saying very different things when January 6th American protesters were denied their due process rights.
No one is above the law.
No one above the law.
Does uphold the basic notion that nobody's above the law.
A test of the principle that no one is above the law, that the law applies equally to everyone.
First, let me be clear. No one is above the law.
The president must be held accountable. No one is above the law.
Oh, but apparently leftists are above the law. Just ask all of those folks who were pardoned by Joe Biden for crimes we didn't know they committed. Just ask all the district judges who are doing everything they can to reward illegal immigration and the estimated 45 million illegals who are in the United States right now. Just ask all of those rogue judges who are doing everything they can, even violating the laws themselves, to keep criminal illegal aliens here in our country and harming our people. Just ask the Democrats who are fighting to keep our borders open and keep illegal aliens in this country, even after they do horrific things to our people, like the most recent case of an illegal alien who admitted he raped a 13-year-old boy that was just playing hide and seek with his brother in a Florida neighborhood. And we all see the game here, don't we? The lawless leftists opened up our borders and allowed millions of unvetted criminal illegal aliens to break into America. In fact, both political parties have allowed this to happen over the last half century. Now that we have a law-abiding president, they want to confer constitutional rights onto illegal aliens who broke our laws and the Constitution to enter our nation in the first place. That's the game. Both Republicans and Democrats conspired with each other against our people to usher in an estimated 45 million illegal aliens. And now that Trump wants to comply with the law and get rid of criminal illegal alien foreign nationals who have no business being on American soil to begin with, the leftists want to give them all court dates.
All right, everyone. I had the most fun with you. The most fun with you all these last few days. Tony Marino will be back tomorrow for the April 30th show. My name is Kay Hill. I hope you had an excellent rest of your, or I hope you have an excellent rest of your week. And as always, God bless you, America.
News breaks every minute, every day. You need the app, the Newsmax app. Find it free on your smartphone store. Then watch us anytime, anywhere.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.